Well, good Monday morning to you. Welcome to our live edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi. Live healthy, be healthy with Doctors Jim and Janine Fox of Doctors Nutrition.
Good morning.
Callan Road, Gulfport, just south of Pass Road, across the street from the old garden center, the old Kmart there. We have our phone lines open to you at 896-0713, 800-349-0713. If you have a question this morning about today's topic or any question for the doctors, please feel free to call in. If you don't want to be on the air, just pass your question along to the operator and they will pass it along to us. Today we're talking about the forgotten vitamin.
Yes.
I mean, we all know about A, B, C, D, E, but very few know about K. Of course, we jumped a few letters in there.
We jumped
but
a few.
we jumped a few. Is there an F, G, H, I, J vitamin?
Well, not really.
Not really. Not that I know of yet.
Those letters just flunked out, I guess, in the vitamin course. But we're talking about the importance of vitamin K and K2, and there's different ones. There's, we're talking about the difference of MK4, MK7. What is vitamin K?
First, the difference in K1 and K2.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I think everybody needs to know that and typically when you say K, everybody thinks, oh, clotting, because K1, and that's the one everything, it seems like the only knowledge base out there is on K1, which is the clotting, activates the clotting factor. And you might know that a German was the first one to see it, and of course they would spell clot with a K rather than a C, so it got to, instead of vitamin C, it's called vitamin K. Phylliquinone. But anyhow, it's the K1 is active for the clotting factor in our blood, no doubt. Now, since research has kind of advanced a little bit since the clotting factor was found, K2 was discovered, and they realized that okay, there's K1, but then there's K2, and then there's multiples of K2. There's something like about 8 or 9 different varieties of K2, different forms and so on. And they have nothing to do really with the clotting factor. It's all about other things, activating other proteins, things like that in the bloodstream that has to do with calcium and taking calcium to the bone, keeping calcium out of places it shouldn't be, that kind of thing. So that's where the K2.
It actually directs calcium from where
it's
it's supposed
the
to go.
orchestrator.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the orchestrator of calcium. And that's one of the main things we're talking about today is K2. Because people do know about K1, and a lot of people do get K1 because they get those in green leafy
vegetables, right.
But 90% of Americans are lacking the amount of K2 that they need.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
90%?
90%.
Yeah.
So it's a real high
wow.
percentage of K2. Other countries get high amounts of K2 because of the
for,
foods.
for instance, like the French, and they always talk about
Yeah.
the French paradox, and they talk about the wine. Well, it's probably not the wine and the resveratrol that goes with it. I mean, that's obviously that's a factor too. But they eat a lot of like goose liver pate, high in K2. So they eat a lot of the fermented foods that are high in K2, and so on. So, and the Germans and so on are big for the sauerkraut, et cetera,
Right.
which has the K2 in it. And some of the cheeses, like what is it, Gouda and Brie.
Gouda and Brie are the only 2 cheeses used in the United States that are actually high enough in K2 to get your K2 from.
Right.
There's actually one of the biggest sources of K2 is something called natto, which is
Fermented soy.
Fermented soy, which is, from what I understand, I've never eaten it. That you can get it in some of the Asian markets because it actually is a staple in the Asian cultures. They say the taste and smell is absolutely horrible. I mean, they say if you're not you didn't grow
gotta
up
be
if you
brave.
didn't grow up with it, it's probably not something you're going to eat. But that's
Don't
why,
break it out in the kitchen there.
No.
That's why
Clear
sometimes
the house.
too you find that heart disease and stuff is lower in some of the Asian cultures
Sure, yeah.
because of the K2 that's in their diet. And like I said, Americans, when you start looking at where you get K2 from, you can see why everybody's deficient. Because like I said, there's a few kinds of cheeses, and that's it. Fermented foods, but like yogurt and kefir does not have the bacteria needed to make K2, so it does not have the K2 in it. So things that we eat in this country don't have the K2. Now, on your meat, yes, liver, we talked about the goose liver pate actually having K2. It takes grass-fed, free-range animals in order to have K2 at all. They actually find when they're fed the grains, when they're fed the things that are the commercial growers are doing, that they're lacking in the K2 also.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things, so you can see why Americans are deficient in it.
And we used to, we'd eat eggs, but now
Eggs
if you
are
eat an
another
egg,
source, yeah.
eggs are a good source if they're free range.
Organic.
They're free
If
range,
they're organic,
organic.
free
Organic,
range.
which
They
I,
are.
I put in my diet now.
Yeah,
Organic eggs.
The little chicken has to go out and eat
it's-
bugs. And
they don't.
things.
I don't know. Maybe I just got the wrong organic eggs. We tried to boil some over the weekend, and they just. Ugh.
They're fresh.
No, the fresher
fresh.
they are, the actual more they don't peel.
Okay.
Yeah, the
older
albumin
eggs
sticks
peel
to the
better.
thing.
So I need to find. I actually need to find someone that has chickens that lay eggs and just go out there and rob the nests.
Well, I mean, that's
Well, that's
With the
always
person
best.
present. I mean, no, I'll pay for him.
No, he's actually going to be the one.
He's going to come steal them.
Yeah.
Hey, I used to do that. Years
still
and
go
years
there
and
now.
years ago. My grandmother,
Oh.
she had all kinds of. She of course lived on a farm out in the Lausanna area there, and she had chickens. Big chicken yard, and she could go out there and just slide her hand right up underneath the hen and get the eggs out, and they wouldn't bother her. Man, I go out there and they
You didn't know
bow
how to
up
do
and
it.
everything, and they start pecking at you. So
Yeah.
yeah, but those are the best. Those are the best kind.
Oh,
Get
yeah.
it fresh
They are.
like that. They really are. Now, one of the things that I'm taking is the ADK2.
Yes.
Anytime you take, I mean, and the research is kind of showing this that when you take, and we get a lot of folks walk in and they say, well, I'm taking calcium. If you're taking calcium, you really need to be making sure that you're getting your D and your K2. Because if you take enough calcium, and there's actually some research about 1.5 years ago showed that women, and particularly women with bone issues and so on, bone density issues, they would start taking a lot of calcium, and all of a sudden in that group, their heart disease rate went up, the plaquing in the arteries and so on. So because they didn't have the K2, because there's proteins that actually take that calcium, it's called osteocalcin, and it binds to it and takes it into the bone. Now, if you don't have the K2 to activate that osteocalcin,
Then you can't use
get it into the bone.
And so then you start laying down calcium in places you don't want it,
Where it shouldn't
which
be.
of course is going to be your arteries.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here. Michael's on the phone. Michael, hang on. We'll be right back with you. We've got to take a quick break here, pay a couple of bills.
Yeah.
And we'll be right back. Healthy Living South Mississippi. Live healthy, be healthy. And welcome back to our Monday morning live edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi. Live healthy, be healthy with Drs. Jim and Janine Fox of Doctors Nutrition over on Cowan Road in Gulfport. Remember, they are open Monday through Saturday. The doctors are in Monday through Thursday. You never need an appointment, and the consultations are absolutely free. What
Right.
more can you ask for?
Right.
Michael is on the phone from Gulfport this morning. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fine. You got a couple questions for us.
Yes.
What's the
ahead.
question?
Okay. I have two questions.
Okay?
Okay. I'm not trying to name drop or anything like that.
Okay.
But my former ex-wife was Linda Lawrence of the Supreme. She had rheumatoid arthritis, and she was taking milk thistle and ceramylestoliate by joint, and it got rid of it. And do you carry ceramylestoliate by joint?
We do not
I
carry
didn't catch that
specific-
name, but no.
What was that name again?
Okay, the product is by joint, but the product is called ceramylestoliate.
No.
Ceramylestoliate?
That doesn't ring a
I'm
bell.
probably not pronouncing it right, but it's
Probably not.
ceramylestoliate.
Okay. No.
We do have milk thistle, and milk thistle is just a really good detoxifier, and actually they
extremely
have
good.
shown it to actually help arthritis. But we have other stuff that's also really good for rheumatoid arthritis as well. MSM, we do have the stuff that the Pernimax. There's a lot of things you can take, but if you call us with the spelling on that, I'll look for you.
All right.
Okay.
I bet you're saying cetyl mysterolate.
That could be that.
That's
Yes,
probably what that
there
is.
is something, and that is good, and we do have some products with it in it, not by itself, but we can order it for you with it by itself. But it's not by that company because we only sell things that are sold through doctors, so the brands may be a little different. But that's what she's talking about, I'm sure.
That has to be.
Now
Has to be.
I've been thinking, like, what is she saying?
So that was a good one.
Yeah.
All right, Betty from Wool Market, can you take vitamin K if you're on the blood thinner Coumadin and warfarin?
That's a
Coumadin
good question.
and warfarin
but
is the same thing.
right? And we were going to get to that because we did want to talk about that a little bit.
One of the issues, K1, they always tell you to avoid K1 because Coumadin is a K antagonist, which means it's going to block K from doing its job. That's how it works. And that's why when you feed it to the rats, that's why they bleed to death, okay, because it blocks K1 or the clotting factor. Now, if you're taking K or Coumadin, you don't want to take any of the K1 for sure. you want to avoid that.
And actually, very little, if any, of the K2.
Not over 50
There's been a lot of
micrograms, yeah.
research, and they think if K2 gets high enough, then you can also affect the effectiveness of the medication.
That's what happens, is
So
it affects the
no
medication.
more than 50 micrograms of K, and I've even seen where it's recommended that you do probably get your K2 from stuff like Gouda cheese or something that actually start eating fermented foods and maybe get a little bit that way as opposed to taking supplemental K.
Right.
And so you do have to be careful with blood thinners, and we were going to get to that, but you
Right.
already got to
beat
it
us
for
to
us.
it.
Well, there you go. All right, thank you very much, Betty, for the call. We were talking about, while we're on commercial, the importance of K2 and what it does for calcification and the importance that it is for, for your heart.
Well,
Yes.
it is. One of the things that, when you always think about, K, you think about the blood clotting, like, they talk about there. But when you get into the K2, and some of the first research showed that, K2 actually activates this stuff called osteocalcin, which takes calcium to the bone. And without it being activated, it can't get the calcium in the bone. Well, then there's something else that it also activates, and it's called a matrix GLA, or some will pronounce it GLA, matrix GLA protein. And what that does is that picks up calcium that's in the bloodstream, like, for instance, in that plaque in your arteries or somewhere else like that, and it actually takes it back and it kind of hand it off to the osteocalcin and eventually get it into your bone. And
Yep. The neat thing about vitamin K2 is it's actually been shown to help reverse plaquing in the arteries.
Right. There's some good research on
And
that
it
one
can
now.
actually take the plaquing from the arteries and put it into the bone. So you're helping osteoporosis, you're actually helping plaquing in the arteries. And remember, 90% of Americans are depleted in K2, and they're finding that it is so essential at keeping down heart disease. It really is. Now, unfortunately, the people that are on Coumadin, that is actually one of the downsides to the medication itself. I mean, not that you can just stop taking it, we're not saying that, is it blocks K, which actually leads to plaquing in the arteries. So people on Coumadin are actually going to have a higher incidence of plaquing as well because of the medication, because it's so important to have it to actually decrease that plaquing.
And another drug that interferes with K and
Two.
K2 is your statin drugs. And good God, everybody's on statin
So
drugs.
anybody on a statin drug that's not on Coumadin
Yeah.
does need to be supplementing K2. Now, even other blood thinners.
Which is me, because I
Yes.
take Lipitor.
Yes,
Right.
For,
exactly. But you're
cholesterol.
taking K2. We put
But
you
I am,
on
that's
it when
why
you
I'm
first
taking
came in.
K2.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm taking that.
And you're taking a real adequate amount of it. There's even some of the newer research on K2 for cancer prevention. It's actually shown with prostate cancer, people that get the adequate amounts of K2 decrease their risk of prostate cancer by like 58%.
Wow.
Which is significant.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, so when you start looking at this little known, that's why they say this little known vitamin that is so important, most people aren't getting what they need. And, even if you're taking a multivitamin, majority of multivitamins, almost all, I can say almost, do not have vitamin K2 in it.
Might have K1.
K1. Now, we do have a new multi called Megavites Lean, and it's for metabolism and just to kind of help overall health and sugar handling problems. We did make sure it had K2 in it.
Right.
So it's our newest multi that just came out, and with the research coming out on K2, we made sure that the K2 was in that multi.
And as other thing, as we always are, our stuff's evolving, changing. So as we change formulations on some of this stuff, we'll make sure it has
It
K2
has,
in
yes.
it too.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, and as we say all the time, a lot of people say, well, I'll just go to the big box store and just find me a multivitamin and see, it's got some K2. Yeah, it might be that much.
Well,
Well, it depends. The amount is
If
different,
even that much.
but the kind makes a difference.
Exactly. The kind
Actually,
plus all the fillers that
Yeah.
they put in
Right.
there as well. And we preach on this so much is
Yeah.
because it's even been
Yeah.
on ABC News, CBS News, and all of them that have covered it regarding.
But you may not be getting what you
exactly.
think you're getting.
You're not, and
Now-
stuff that they have pulled off the market, off the shelves, because you're not getting what you think you're getting.
Right.
So anyway, so we got a break coming up. In just a moment, we're going to tell you about the weekly special that we have this week, but hang on for that. Now, what are some of the good sources, real quick? We mentioned eggs.
Free range.
Free range
It has to be
eggs.
free range eggs.
They have to be able to get to grass.
Gouda
Right.
cheese, brie cheese, natto. And-
Your grass-fed butter. In other words,
Yeah,
a
but it
cow
has
that's
to be grass-fed, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have the ability to, the chickens, the pigs, and the cows have the ability, the ruminants in there, where they can actually change that and the bacteria available where they can actually change K1 into K2.
And think about it, grass being green has K1.
There
So
you
that's
go.
why it
Yeah.
has to be grass-fed animals. If they're not grass-fed, it's not going to have the same properties.
And you're probably thinking, yeah, but man, that organic stuff, I mean, that's a little bit more expensive than buying it.
You pay now or pay later.
Thank you, Fram. Remember that?
Exactly. Stole the words out of my mouth. Say hallelujah. Pay now or pay later, because those doctors get paid real well. Not these, but the ones that are going to be waiting on you in a hospital when you're trying to find all this stuff. Anyway, we'll be back with our weekly special in just a moment. It is Live Healthy, Be Healthy with Dr. Jim and Janine Fox of Doctors Nutrition. Stick around. We'll be right back. And welcome back to our Monday morning live edition of Healthy Living South Mississippi. Live Healthy, Be Healthy with Dr. Jim and Janine Fox of Doctors Nutrition, located on Cowan Road in Gulfport, south of Pass Road. Open Monday through Saturday. The doctors are there Monday through Thursday from 10 to 5. Store is open through Friday 10 to 5, and on Saturday from 11 to 2.
Right.
Got that down. Carol of Gulfport has a question. How much K2 should they look for in a multivitamin?
Well, in your multivitamin, if you're looking for a day's supply, you need about 50 micrograms.
At least.
At least.
The minimum, when we talked about 90% of Americans not having what they needed in K2, that was 90% get below the minimum of 50 micrograms.
Right.
So you want at least 50 micrograms. Now, like with our multivitamin, it's very rare to find K2 in a multivitamin,
Very
like we just
rare.
mentioned. We do have one, Megabytes Lean. Now, it's a 6-day formula, and so 6-day have 100 micrograms. But of course, if you took the 3, you would get the 50. So we do have a multi that does have the K2. Now, we also talk about this week's special, because we'll mention
Right.
those and tell you how much K2 is in those. We have the ADK2, which it does have the high dose vitamin D, and many people out there are taking the high dose vitamin D, which actually can be not good for you if you don't take the K2 with it.
Right.
And vitamin A is also important. It has 500 micrograms per capsule, so it's actually a pretty high amount. It has the 5000 D as well. Bioactive K2 is 50 micrograms per capsule.
Yeah.
So if you just did one of those capsules a day, you would get the minimum dosage of K2 needed.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
So there's your special for this week.
Right.
What's the difference between MK4 and MK7?
Well, okay, we got K1.
Okay.
And then we have all these other Ks, which are classified as the K2s. And first off, they just called it K2 because it was just different than K1. Well, now they found out, okay, there's all kinds of K2s and forms of K2. Now, K4, MK4, is one that you'll see in some things. It's basically, it's a synthetic form of K2. Now, and it's very short-lived. It does not live long in your bloodstream. In other words, it's used and boom, it's gone. Now, MK7, and there's MK9 and all this other stuff, but MK7 seems to be the one that biologically or physiologically in your body tends to stay around and activate things and work well for up to about 24 hours.
Right.
And it is the most active, and it is
Natural.
in that you take the K and you can use bacteria to actually ferment it and make K2 out of it, and you get to MK7. So, that's the difference
And
between
if you do
them.
take the synthetic MK4, it takes much higher doses.
Much higher
And they
doses.
say if you actually do take MK4, you need to split it in more than one dosage because it's not going to stay in the body as long. It's not going to be 24 hours.
Right.
And you want protection, especially from plaque in arteries. You want protection for 24 hours, which is what the MK7 does. Now, what's in our multi, what's in bioactive K2, and what's in ADK2 is all MK7.
All.
So we don't use the MK4 because it is a synthetic.
Right.
And just like synthetic vitamin D, which is D2, when research first started coming out, they did a lot of research on D2. Well, now as it's progressed, they know that D2 is not near as beneficial as D3, which is your natural D.
It can actually be detrimental.
Yeah, it can actually be detrimental and cause plaquing in the brain if you have too much D2. So there's a lot to the synthetic versus the natural forms of vitamins. And that's the biggest difference in MK4 and MK7 is
Right.
that one's synthetic and one's natural.
And again, that's why it's important to go see them about this. And also, as we've stressed so many times, before you go start taking a whole bunch of different vitamins and changing things up and everything,
Exactly.
get some blood work.
Right.
You need to get some blood work done. You can get it done right there at the doctor's office on Cowan Road. Brooke is a registered nurse over there,
Right.
and she does a great job of drawing your blood, but then they have all kinds of different panels that you can determine exactly what it is, where you're vitamin deficient, and how your medication is interacting with you and everything. And,
Right.
and
Well, you know,
possibly-
anytime you're taking, if you're going to start out on this quest for good health, okay, you really want to know where you're starting from.
Right.
The lab work will kind of tell you. And you want to make sure you're doing the right thing. I mean, if you're going to spend your money and to buy stuff, you want to make sure it's good, because there's nothing any more expensive than a cheap, ineffective nutrient. Think about it. If it's cheap and ineffective, it's worthless. Okay.
Joe from St. Martin has a question: what vitamins are overlooked other than K2?
Vitamin A is a biggie.
Yeah, vitamin
Really?
A.
Oh yeah, vitamin A. Now, you know, a lot of people, and this is where we do a lot of that genetic testing, you know, where you look at the genetic issues that people have. And one of the things, Joe, that comes up, a lot of people can't convert beta carotene into, which is usually put in, because it's cheap, it's usually put in the multivitamins, things like that, as the pro vitamin A. A lot of people genetically can't convert it to vitamin A, so they wind up being A deficient.
Yeah, so,
So
it,
that's
probably,
a
it is
biggie.
another one of the overlooked nutrients for so long, because too much A can be toxic to the liver. So it got a bad rap because
yeah.
people were taking this enormous amounts that weren't healthy for them. And then they start saying, oh, stay away from vitamin A, and everything started going to beta carotene. Well, now, of course, they're finding out genetically a lot of people, like he said, can't convert the beta carotene into
convert
A. So a lot of people are A deficient.
And you know, and Joe asked a question about it. I mean, Joe, this is only a 30-minute show. We can
Yeah,
spend
what all vitamins,
hours,
but-
you know,
but
talking
A-
about things that are overlooked. I mean, there's so many things. A lot of your antioxidants. I mean, you know, there's so much of that that's overlooked in nutrition or in the general vitamins.
I mean, there's
and
just
stuff.
so much out there that just depends on where people look on what they might be overlooking.
Well, for instance, the folate. We had a whole show on the methylation. I think you can go back and see it on the. I think they've got it archived somewhere.
Yeah.
And you can go back and look at that, but it's about the methylation, because a lot of people can't use folic acid, for instance. And there is the methylfolate, which is the 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. And that one you can use, and you know, that's one that's overlooked. And you'll see a lot of foods that are, say, fortified. Anytime a food says it's fortified, it's typically fortified with a cheap, ineffective, or synthetic version of whatever they're fortifying it
and
with.
which means they stripped all the nutrients out of it to begin with in
They're
order to
gonna
have to
fortify it,
fortify
right.
it later.
So stay away from fortified foods. Okay. Don't buy fortified. Let the chicken fortify the egg and eat the egg.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
That's
And
the
eat
thing.
real food, like we always
Real
say.
food.
Eat real food, not boxed,
Right.
packaged, processed food.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you're better off getting nutrients that way in
Fresh
the natural form
vegetables.
rather than things that were stripped and then
don't buy
fortified
stuff.
later.
Don't buy stuff in a can.
Yeah.
You know, your vegetables in a
Please.
can. Don't do that. You know, it's always a lot better if you get it fresh.
Right.
Yes, you have to prepare it a little bit more. You know, unless you're going on a camping trip somewhere, and you just have to have a couple of cans, something like that.
Then you can actually do your own fermented vegetables. And
Oh, that's a whole nother
that is
show.
actually-
That's a whole nother
that
show. That's a
is.
whole nother
I mean,
show.
There's
But
actually
it'll be a
so
good
many,
one.
so many benefits. You get so much probiotics from your own fermented vegetables.
Now,
And it's easy to do.
And it is.
Now, I've got to say this too. Janine's actually working on a cookbook.
Right.
And we've been asked a few times, when are we going to do a cooking segment for the show? Show some of the healthy food that we're always talking about. Very soon. Very soon. I think you should do the biscuits with the pulled pork that we had for lunch at your house
Yep,
one day.
that's a good
Ooh,
one.
those are
That
good.
was really, really
See,
good.
the research on this cookbook has been excellent.
Yes. And the crab cakes.
Somebody has to taste it.
Yeah,
crab
crab
cakes
cakes
had
are
crab
good.
cakes,
Oh,
man. They
yeah.
were
I do
really
Southern cooking, but healthy.
Right.
healthy Southern cooking.
That's an oxymoron, isn't it?
Ooh. Okay.
Ooh,
Anyway,
big word.
next week we're going to have a kind of an open line Monday.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to take questions on any kind of subject that you want to talk about. We'll throw some things out there to you. Just kind of, a healthier you.
Yeah, and talking about taking control of your own health and doing what you can to be healthy.
Right.
Okay, well, be sure and join us next week. Don't forget, Doctors Nutrition located on Cowan Road in Gulfport, just south of Pass Road. Doctors are in Monday through Thursday. Don't need an appointment to stop by, and the consultations are always free. Hope you have a great week. Be sure and hydrate yourself a lot in these hot days.
Yes. Yes.